Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Tuesday, April 29th. It is my mom's birthday. Happy birthday, Mom. And I won't tell you all how old she is, but I'm old, so you can just do the math. But a regular listener here. She doesn't comment. Hopefully, let's keep it that way. I got a couple questions about some drafts process related stuff that I've gotten over the last couple days. And, well, this is the podcast for that. So let's dive in here. This is a question from Yeti on Twitter. Yeti NHL, who asks if a prospect falls farther than they would like in the draft and has college eligibility left, can they decide to opt out of the draft and return to college for another year? Consider how much some guys can make in the NIL these days. I think it could become more common if that is allowed. Ewers and Sanders come to mind. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely. Quinn Ewers and Shedeur Sanders are two players that lost money by declaring for the 2025 NFL draft when they still had college eligibility remaining. This is an interesting thing that I think you may see some momentum to change as we move forward, but right now, no. So in order to enter the NFL draft, you either have to be out of college eligibility or you have to write a letter saying, I forego all the rest of my college eligibility to be in the draft. If you're in the draft, you can't have any college eligibility left anymore. So, and that is an NFL rule, not an NCAA rule. So, like, as we've seen a lot of NCAA things become attacked, like amateurism, like restrictions on being able to transfer, and the NCAA losing those battles in courts and those things being very quickly overturned, this is actually the NFL's rule because they don't want players to be able to say, oh, I don't like where you picked me, I'm going to go back to school. They want the draft to be determinant. If the Cleveland Browns take you, you play for the Cleveland Browns, or you face severe consequences with the rest of your career. That's what the NFL wants. I can see, though, as we get to a point where, NIL salaries for star college football players are significantly more than a day 3 draft pick. I can see some momentum for this rule getting changed or modified in some way. And so, no, if you fall far in the draft and you don't like where you get drafted, you're stuck. You have to go into the NFL or play in Canada, whatever. Or the UFL, I suppose, now is another option. So, yeah, that is unfortunately not something that was an option for Shedeur Sanders or Quinn Ewers. They will have to sign with those teams or not play in the NFL or try to get a trade. That's really the only other option. Randy Tobias has a question about the great wild west of the NFL, and that is undrafted free agents. Randy says, for UDFAs, how does signing them work? Do you have to go in an order? Is it the first team to call and they accept the deal, etc.? Also, is there a limit to how many you can sign? Undrafted free agents are the least regulated part of the entire NFL process. It is just the Wild West. So teams will start talking to agents of players they like as undrafted free agents during day 3 of the draft. They will start to negotiate with agents before the draft has ended and say, if you don't get drafted, we like your guy for this much money. No one with this much money. Unlike the very strict draft slotting system of the draft picks, undrafted free agents can sign for any amount of money. They can sign for fully guaranteed, no guaranteed, big signing bonus, no signing bonus. The only sort of standard thing is that an undrafted free agent is going to sign a 3-year contract. Other than that, it's totally in the wind. And these agents are negotiating with these teams while the draft is happening. Sometimes the agents don't want to give out too much information to the team because they don't want to get drafted. They want to end up where they have a deal worked out with. And in some cases, they could actually make more money, at least in terms of like the money that's important to them, signing bonus, guarantees, etc., by being undrafted than going late in the 7th round. Sometimes you'll see these deals get announced and then they don't ever happen. They end up going somewhere else. Like, that's because there's nothing. So let's say I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers and I call Kobe Bryant, the cornerback from Kansas, just to tweak Mike a little bit here. And we have a deal in the 7th round. Say, Kobe, if you don't get drafted, we're taking the slot corner here. We know you're outside. If you don't get drafted, we want to sign you to a $500,000 free agent contract. And his agent can say, yes, that's fine. We'll do that. We like the Steelers. We like you. We're on board. And then 20 minutes later, the agent gets another phone call. He's already agreed to the Steelers. It doesn't matter. If the Chiefs want to pay him $100,000 more, he can be like, "Yep, that's great. We like you. Forget the Steelers. We're signing with you." He doesn't even have to call the Steelers back and tell them. I mean, it's like courtesy, but like, there's nothing. So like, because the draft is still happening and those deals can't be officially agreed to, they'll just handshake stuff. And there is a lot of backstabbing. There's also a lot of like, "Hey, we would like to sign your client for this amount of money." Well, the Steelers might tell 7 centers that they would like to sign them for this amount of money. And after the first one says yes, they're going to tell the other 6 to get lost. So it is just a mess of a process, very difficult to navigate for both agents and teams. I'm honestly surprised there hasn't been more of a push to somehow make it more fair or organized, because it's neither of those things. And so, no, you don't. It's not the first team. It's not even the first team you agree to a deal necessarily. As far as a limit to how many you can sign, you just can't have 90 players, more than 90 players on your roster. So however many you had on your roster before the draft, plus your draft picks, and then from there to 90, that's how many undrafted free agents you can sign. So no, you can sign as many as you want if you want to start cutting, like the Steelers cut Montravius Adams and Ryan Watts. They can add 2 more players to their roster. I don't know if they were at the 90 maximum. I haven't checked yet, but probably not. But yeah, so that is undrafted free agents. And then one more process question here. Jamie, a longtime member of the audience, asked, "Please explain release versus waived." The Steelers released Montravius Adams and waived Ryan Watts. So during the season, there is minimal difference. But during the offseason, veteran players on their 4th NFL season or more, do not have to go through waivers. So when the Steelers released Montravius Adams, he immediately became a free agent. He could sign with whatever team he wanted to. Right now, the next day. Well, they didn't officially release him yet, but so tomorrow they'll be able to sign. He'll be able to sign with whoever he wants to. Ryan Watts is on his rookie contract. He has to go through waivers. So the Steelers release Watts. They haven't done it officially yet. They'll probably release him with what's called an failed physical designation or an injury designation. There's a couple of differences there as to how he's going to be released, but it doesn't really matter in terms of the waiver process. That means that all 31 other NFL teams can go onto the waiver wire, which processes Monday through Friday in the offseason. And basically, it's every player that was released by every team subject to waivers. The order is the same as the draft order in the offseason. So the Cleveland Browns, actually, it's not exactly the same. The ties are processed a little bit differently, but so the Cleveland Browns would get the first shot to say, "We want Ryan Watts." And then, the Tennessee Titans, the first shot. And then the Cleveland Browns would get the second shot. Then the New York Giants, third shot. No, so on and so forth. And if everybody says no, he goes all the way through waivers. Then he becomes a free agent, unless he was released waived with an injury designation. Then he goes to the Steelers injured reserve list. So we'll see how they handled this release exactly. Could be a number of, it could be waived injured or it could be failed physical. I'm not quite sure. I think it'll probably be waived with the failed physical designation. Anyway, released players don't have to go through waivers. Waived players obviously do. The only difference is in the season, I think it's after like week 6 or something like that, everybody has to go through waivers, even if it's a veteran. Or maybe it's week 9. Maybe it's the same as the trade deadline. After a point early in the season, even veteran players have to go through waivers if they're released. So during the season, or after that deadline, everybody goes through waivers. But before that, in the calendar, players that are veterans get released and are immediately free agents. Players that are not veterans are released and they go through waivers. And then if they clear waivers, then they can become a free agent. Or another team can claim them. Now, a claiming team on waivers has to take the entire contract of the player, except for signing bonus. That always stays with the team that signed it and paid it. Remember, in salary cap stuff, the team that pays it keeps it. So, like Ryan Watts' signing bonus was paid when the Steelers drafted him and signed him to his first contract. So if a team claimed him on waivers, all they're responsible for is the rest of the salary of his contract. So if you claim someone on waivers, you have to take his entire contract with him. So a lot of times you'll see a guy waived, even if a lot of teams want him, even if there turns out to be a bidding war for him, nobody claims him on waivers because they don't want to pay the dollar figure that was of his old contract. Like say, Mike Williams, for example, the Steelers had to cut him because he had a year left on his contract at an elevated salary. They cut him. The Chargers signed him. The Chargers could have claimed him on waivers, but then they would have had to pay him what his old contract was instead of getting to pay him whatever they and he agreed to. All right, I think that's it for process questions. Good questions. I love that kind of stuff here on Morning Rush. Leave some topics for Afternoon Drive. I'm sure me and Smitty will be looking for things to talk about this week. So definitely let us know what's on your brain. And subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube platform. Leave us a 5-star review if you're listening somewhere else. Until next time, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and enjoy.